Hey guys, tonight we're going somewhere unpleasant, but fascinating. You wake up to the sound of dripping water, except it isn't water. It's the slow leak of ale from a cracked wooden cask, trickling into straw that smells like rot and sweat. The floor beneath you is sticky, the air thick with yeast and smoke. Congratulations, it's your first morning in medieval Europe, and you're already drunk. You didn't choose to be, nobody here does. The wells are full of parasites, the rivers of waste. So, if you want to live, you drink beer. Even the children do. Even the monks. You probably wouldn't last an hour here. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And tell me in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is for you. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's descend into tonight's story together. The first sip hits you before you've even opened your eyes. The liquid's warm. It always is, and smells faintly of bread, smoke, and something you can't quite name. The brewer, a woman in a linen coif, stirs the mash with an oar-sized spoon, humming through missing teeth. Her hands are red from heat, her apron stiff with old spills. Behind her, children scrape dried foam from the barrel lids to lick later, like sugar. This is breakfast. The alehouse isn't so much a house as a lean-to built against a wall of crumbling wattle and daub. The air is fogged with malt steam and human odor. You can't tell which is stronger, the yeasty sweetness or the ammonia bite of urine from the corner bucket. The floor slopes slightly, so every spill finds the same dark puddle. Someone slips in it every day. Outdoors, the village hums like a beehive. Everywhere you look, someone's brewing. Clay pots bubble on coals, wooden tubs froth, smoke coils through open doors. Brewing isn't a craft, it's survival. Women brew because they must. Their husbands are in the fields, and water kills faster than sin. Every hearth smells faintly of wet grain. You walk past one house where the wort has burned, leaving a scent like bitter caramel and soot. The brewer cries quietly, because that batch was her rent. You take another sip of your own ale, thin, warm, slightly sour. It tastes like liquid bread left too long in the sun. The alcohol content is low, barely enough to dull the edges of the day. But it's safer than water, and that's all that matters. The irony isn't lost on you. The thing keeping everyone alive is the same thing slowly eroding their teeth, livers, and minds. You hear laughter from the road. A few men carry a cask between them, chanting a rhyme about St. Arnold, patron saint of brewers and hangovers. Drink, lest you die of thirst, they sing, sloshing half their cargo into the mud. The local priest walks by and doesn't stop them. He knows the truth. His own abbey's cellars hold more barrels than Bibles. Because of course they do. Inside the church, the smell is the same. Ale, sweat, and incense mingling in the cold air. Monks brew beer stronger than any peasants, rich and dark, meant to sustain them through fasting. You'll drink it too, if you survive long enough to afford a pilgrimage. For now, you make do with what the women sell by the bucket, cloudy, half-fermented, and possibly contaminated with dead insects. As the day drifts on, the haze deepens. Work slows. A cobbler hammers a sole crookedly. A shepherd forgets where his flock went. By dusk, the whole village hums with that dull, communal buzz. Not quite joy, not quite despair. Somewhere between the two, where most of history lives. When night falls, the alehouse becomes a blur of firelight and laughter. A man sings about a maiden and a barrel. Someone throws up in the corner. The same corner as always. You don't even flinch. You just keep drinking, because there's nothing else to do. No one really knows when drinking stopped being necessity and became culture. Maybe it never did. Maybe humans just like the feeling of being a little less aware of the mud beneath their feet. You lie back on the straw, the ceiling beams shifting in the flicker of a candle. The air tastes like malt and smoke. Somewhere outside, a dog howls, and the brewer's voice rises again, humming, steady, tired. Tomorrow she'll brew again. So will everyone. And so will you. The morning after doesn't feel like morning. It feels like a hangover wrapped in fog. Your tongue is a strip of leather. Your eyes burn from the smoke of 20 different hearths. and your head throbs with the rhythm of 100 wooden mallets pounding barley. You sit up and remember, this is normal. Everyone feels this way. The village smells like a brewer's nightmare. Boiled grain, wet hay, and a faint sourness clinging to everything like guilt. You follow the scent of smoke to the center of town, where half a dozen women are stirring huge tubs of mash. The steam rises thick and white, like ghosts trying to escape. Each household brews differently. Some use oats or rye, others barley if they can afford it. Hops aren't common yet. There's still a novelty, imported from somewhere far away, rumored to make beer too bitter, too German. Most people brew with whatever they can find: dried herbs, old bread, nettles. A good brew smells faintly floral. A bad one smells like feet. You learn to drink before you think. One woman, the alewife, rules her corner like a queen in rags. She stirs, tastes, adjusts the fire, and spits into the pot for luck. The locals say the spit keeps the brew from souring. You suspect it's just superstition, but you don't say anything. She might spit on you next. Every brew is alive. It hisses, foams, and breathes in the heat. The yeast here is wild. No one understands it, but everyone fears it. Some call it God's dust, because it arrives without warning and turns sweet mash into something holy or something poisonous. A few unlucky brewers have been found dead beside their vats, faces swollen, lungs full of fumes. People whisper that the devil took them for brewing on Sunday. You pass a small cottage where a boy grinds malt with a stone, the powder clinging to his hands like ash. His mother pours the crushed grain into boiling water, muttering a prayer that sounds like a curse. Brewing is work, endless, dirty, dangerous work. The fires scorch the skin, the vapors sting the eyes, and the barrels have to be scrubbed until your fingers bleed. But there's no other way to survive. Ale is money. Ale is medicine. Ale is life. You watch as the brewer lifts the lid of her vat and releases a rush of hot, yeasty air. It hits you in the face like a punch. Somewhere behind her, a cat darts across the floor, and she throws a spoon at it. "Thieving beast," she yells, though she's smiling. The spoon lands in the mash. She shrugs and keeps stirring. You taste a spoonful of the fresh wort, sweet, thick, and slightly bitter. It will ferment for days, maybe weeks, before it becomes drinkable. For now, it's just promise. Outside, barrels roll down the muddy street, sloshing with new ale. Each is marked with chalk, a symbol, a number, a warning. The brewers know which ones are good and which ones will kill you. But they sell them all anyway. There's no waste in poverty. By noon, the village hums again. The men who swore they'd quit drinking after last night are already lining up at the ale bench. The women who brewed all morning sit in the shade, counting pennies that smell of rust. Children run between the barrels, licking foam from their fingers. Everyone's a little dizzy. Everyone's a little numb. You hear the distant clang of a bell from the monastery. It's the sound of brewing there too, only cleaner, holier, and much more profitable. Monks have perfected the art, turning it into ritual. Their beer is stronger, darker, and infinitely better than what you're drinking. They sell it to travelers, nobles, even kings. You realize the church brews sin into salvation and sells it back to the faithful one mug at a time. Because of course they do. As evening falls, the village settles into a sweet, smoky lull. The air tastes of malt and ash. Somewhere a pot boils over, and a woman curses loud enough to wake the dead. You hear laughter, then coughing, then more laughter. Someone passes you a mug, the same cloudy ale as always. You drink without hesitation. It's warm, sour, alive. And somehow, so are you. No one really knows why the taste changes from batch to batch. Maybe it's the grain, or the temperature, or the invisible hand of something divine, or cruel. The only constant is the buzz, the faint dizzy veil that turns mud into gold and misery into song. Tomorrow, the same vats will boil again. The same spoons will stir. And you'll drink again, because that's what survival tastes like here. Slightly spoiled, but better than dying of thirst. By nightfall, the air turns heavy, damp with smoke and the sweet, burnt smell of malt. The road leading into the village glows faintly from torches and cheap lanterns. You follow the sound before you see it. Laughter, clinking mugs, the creak of benches, and somewhere beneath it all, a low, rhythmic hum. The heartbeat of a tavern alive. The door opens before you can touch it. Warmth hits like a blow. Inside, it's chaos wrapped in candlelight. A dozen bodies move in slow disorder. Men hunched over mugs, women shouting for more ale, dogs gnawing on bones underfoot. The walls are slick with sweat and smoke. Above the din, someone plays a cracked fiddle, its string whining like a cat in pain. Welcome to the alehouse, the one true church of the common man. You take a seat on a rough plank bench that wobbles when you breathe. Across from you, a man with no teeth grins, slams his mug against yours, and spills half of it into your lap. No one apologizes here. You're baptized in beer whether you like it or not. The ale is flat, cloudy, alive with tiny bits of something that might be yeast or might not. You drink anyway. It tastes of sour bread and smoke, with a strange sweetness that coats your throat like syrup. Your stomach tightens, but you don't stop. No one does. The tavern keeper, a red-faced woman with forearms like butcher's hams, moves between tables with frightening precision. She knows who's good for coin and who'll pay in labor. Every refill is a small negotiation, every swallow a transaction. The room runs on barter and booze. A priest sits in the corner, robes stained with something brown. He drinks quietly, alone, head bowed, though not in prayer. Beside him, a soldier tells a story about a siege that left no survivors, except the beer barrels. The crowd roars with laughter. Someone shouts, "God bless the brewer," and everyone raises their mugs. You do too, because here, beer is the only god that listens. The air grows thick, the music louder, the bodies looser. Two men start an argument over a game of dice. One throws a punch, misses, and hits a barrel instead. It cracks, spills foam, and suddenly the floor is a shallow river of ale. Nobody panics. They just kneel and drink from it. You watch them, peasants, sinners, holy men, all on their knees, lapping beer from the floorboards. And for a moment, it looks like worship. The smell is unbearable now. Ale, sweat, piss, and wood smoke braided into something almost tangible. You taste it when you breathe. You think of the churches, of incense and whispered confessions. But this is louder, cruder, more honest. Here, forgiveness is bought by the mug, and redemption tastes faintly of vinegar. You turn to see a woman laughing so hard she can't breathe. Her face is flushed, her head thrown back, her hair coming loose. A man beside her makes a joke you don't catch, and she spills her drink down her front. He laughs harder, smacks her shoulder, and she smacks him back, not in anger, but in rhythm. The whole tavern joins in, pounding tables, singing tunelessly. It's obscene and beautiful. This place is the heart of medieval life, a blur of noise, warmth, and intoxication. Deals are made here. Marriages begin here. Fights end here. No one remembers what's said, and that's the point. You drink not to forget, but to stop remembering. In the rafters above, smoke curls and collects like a second ceiling. A spider web glistens in the dim light, dusted with ash and ale vapor. A fly struggles in it, trapped. You watch it twitch, its wings beating weakly, and you wonder if you look much different. Someone slams a jug beside you. The tavern keeper laughs and shouts over the crowd. Drink while it's good. Tomorrow it'll taste like death. Because of course it will. Outside, the night deepens. Through the warped window, you glimpse a few stars above the roofline, faint and cold. The tavern door opens, letting in a draft that smells of wet dirt and old wood. For a moment, you think about leaving, about breathing fresh air again. But then another mug lands in front of you, and a stranger raises his in toast. To the next round, he says. And because it's easier than saying no, you raise yours too. The mugs clink. Foam spills. The laughter swells. Somewhere in the back of your mind, a quiet voice wonders how many people have drowned here, not in water, but in everything that replaces it. No one really knows. You drink. The room sways gently, like a ship at sea. The walls blur. The voices melt into one. You close your eyes, and for a brief, impossible moment, You feel safe, floating in the warm, sticky heart of history's great drunken dream. By dawn, the tavern's warmth has soured into the smell of old sweat, burnt tallow, and something else, something faintly sweet and rotten, like spilled wine left too long. The floor glistens with last night's sins. Overturned ale, trampled bread, a broken rosary half sunk in the muck. You step over a man still asleep against the wall, his face pressed into a puddle that's either beer or vomit. It's hard to tell. Outside, the morning bells toll. Their hollow ring cuts through the fog, signaling prayer time. But no one rushes to church. They're already there, in spirit, because here, the tavern is the church. You walk past a procession of half-drunk pilgrims, their eyes glassy with faith and exhaustion. They sing as they stumble, waving tiny bottles of ale like relics. For the road, one tells you, smiling through cracked lips. The bottle smells of herbs and something metallic. You drink, and the taste is sharp, halfway between medicine and punishment. The pilgrims stop before a roadside shrine, a wooden cross draped with wilted flowers and the empty mugs of those who passed before. They kneel, mumbling prayers to Saint Arnulf and Saint Bridget, holy patrons of brewers, because, of course, even heaven needs a tavern. The drunkest one sloshes his ale onto the ground as an offering. The rest follow, and soon the earth smells like communion gone wrong. You join them. Why not? You're already halfway saved or halfway damned. It's hard to tell the difference here. Further down the road, a group of friars sells holy ale, brewed in silence, blessed 3 times, and strong enough to make a peasant forget his debts for a week. The monks claim it's a cure for melancholy, toothache, and impure thoughts. Judging by the line of red-eyed men clutching empty flasks, it seems to work. You take a sip. The ale is rich, heavy, almost syrupy. It slides down like liquid bread, comforting and suffocating all at once. For a brief moment, you taste something divine, then you burp, and it's gone. Behind the friars, a man kneels beside a wooden cart, his head hanging low. A sign around his neck reads, "Drunk on the Sabbath." His punishment, to sit all day with a bucket of sour ale beside him, forbidden to drink. The crowd laughs as they pass, tossing scraps of bread and insults. You catch his eyes, bloodshot, swollen, ashamed, and wonder if he'll ever sober up. The church preaches moderation, but sells indulgence. The tavern sells oblivion, but calls it fellowship. Either way, the coin ends up in the same box. You realize that sin here isn't what you do. It's what you can't afford to hide. As night falls again, the pilgrim camp becomes a carnival. Someone lights a fire. Someone else brings out a drum. Soon the field fills with laughter, singing, and staggering. The air smells of sweat, wood smoke, and ale turning sour in wooden bowls. A woman dances barefoot near the fire, hair tangled, eyes glazed. The flames paint her face gold, then red, then black. Men throw coins. A priest watches, pretending not to. You sip from your mug. It's warm, cloudy, and bitter, but it feels alive. For a moment, you think you see halos in the firelight, thin and trembling. Maybe they're just embers. A man beside you mutters a confession between hiccups. He says he drinks because it brings him closer to God. You believe him. Alcohol is the only miracle here. It transforms fear into laughter, hunger into song, pain into forgetfulness. You wonder if that's what salvation really is. Not purity, but escape. Someone shouts a prayer into the fire. Another throws in a wooden cross, laughing as it crackles. The smell of burning varnish mixes with malt smoke. It's blasphemy, but beautiful. You can't look away, because of course it is. By midnight, the singing slows. A few pilgrims have passed out near the embers, faces turned to the sky. You hear one whispering to himself. Something about forgiveness, something about thirst. His words melt into the crackle of the fire. You can't tell if he's praying or dreaming. No one really knows how many souls found redemption through ale, or how many drowned in it. History doesn't keep that kind of score. It only records what was built, not what was lost. The fire dies. The night grows quiet. You finish what's left in your mug, cold, flat, faintly metallic, and lie down beside the others. The ground is damp, the stars blurred. Somewhere nearby, a church bell tolls again, distant and hollow. You close your eyes, the taste of smoke and ale still clinging to your tongue. Tomorrow, you'll wake up thirsty, and the cycle will start again. The hangover hits at dawn, slow, merciless, biblical. Your head feels packed with wet straw, your tongue is coated in something that could be ash or sin, and every sound slices through you like a blade. The pilgrims are gone, the field is empty, and the fire pit smolders with the scent of burnt wood and vomit. The world seems quieter now. Too quiet. That's usually when the authorities arrive. They come at midday. Men in rough wool cloaks with iron-tipped staffs, the town reeve at their head, his expression somewhere between disgust and delight. They move through the taverns like wolves among sheep, sniffing out sinners. Behind them, the parish priest follows, not to bless, but to condemn. You watch from the doorway as they drag a brewer into the street. She's old, bent, hands raw from years of stirring mash. The reeve accuses her of watering the ale, or maybe of adding herbs that confuse the senses. Either way, she's guilty of something. Everyone is. The crowd gathers, eager for distraction. They tip her barrel over. The ale spills into the mud, bubbling like something alive. The priest sprinkles holy water into the puddle, as if that'll make it behave. The smell rises, sour, sharp, intoxicating. You breathe it in and feel slightly dizzy. Someone murmurs that her brew caused madness last week. Someone else swears she whispered to her cauldron. The word which drifts through the air like a spark looking for dry straw. And then, inevitably, it catches. Within an hour, the brewer's shack is in flames. Her cries mix with the crackle of the fire, with the laughter of those too drunk to care. You turn away, but the smell of burning barley sticks to you. Later, someone will say it was justice. Others will say it was a waste of good beer. Because of course they will. The moral panic spreads faster than the flames. By evening, new laws appear. Taverns must close early. No ale to be sold on holy days. Women brewers need a husband's signature to trade. The same men who drink until dawn now lecture about sobriety from the pulpit. The hypocrisy is thick enough to choke on. You sit at the edge of the marketplace and watch as a monk nails the new edict to a post. His fingers are stained brown, not ink, but beer. He smells faintly of hops and incense. He finishes the job, nods solemnly, then slips into the tavern for confession. You can't help but laugh, though it comes out more like a cough. The next night, the alehouse goes quiet. The benches are empty, the fire cold. The brewer's seat stands vacant, her spoon still hanging by the hearth. Without her, the air feels wrong. Too clean, too sober. You hear whispers of an official crackdown, of punishments and fines, of tavern keepers whipped for serving drunkards. But people are resourceful. By moonlight, they meet in barns, stables, even graveyards. The ale still flows, just quieter now, poured from jugs wrapped in cloth to muffle the clink. You join them, crouched among shadows, listening to someone mutter a toast for the dead brewer. The ale is bitter tonight, sharper, darker, flavored with smoke and defiance. It tastes like rebellion. Someone passes you a wooden cup, filled to the brim. You drink, and it burns. The man beside you grins. That's freedom, he says. You can't tell if he means the drink or the act of drinking. The church bells toll again in the distance, each note a reminder of the thin line between sin and survival. You wonder how long it'll last before the next crackdown. No one really knows. History's rhythm is like fermentation, quiet, invisible, unstoppable. You tilt your head back and stare at the moon. It looks pale and swollen, like the face of someone who's been drinking too long. Around you, the murmurs fade into laughter, low, nervous, but real. People still find a way to drink, to forget, to live. Because that's what they've always done. And somewhere, deep in the dark, another barrel leaks. Another brewer stirs. Another soul risks damnation just to make it through another day. Morning doesn't arrive so much as crawl. The sky hangs low and gray, like a wet cloth wrung over the village. The air stinks of boiled grain, vomit, and wood smoke. You blink through the haze, your skull pulsing like a second heartbeat. Someone nearby is retching into a ditch. Someone else groans, swearing they've gone blind, though they'll see again by noon. Maybe. This is the morning after. And in medieval Europe, it's almost always the morning after. You push yourself up, hands sinking into cold mud. Every muscle aches. Your mouth tastes of copper and yeast, like licking a coin dipped in bread dough. A dog noses through the empty tankards beside you, licking the foam. You shoo it away, though part of you understands. The tavern looks different in daylight, stripped of its candlelit charm. It's nothing but a room of stains. Ale dried in streaks down the walls, benches sticky with God knows what. A rat lies belly up in the corner, bloated and motionless, its fur shining faintly with spilled beer. No one bothers to move it. Inside, people whisper about punishment, divine or otherwise. Headaches are God's warning. Trembling hands, his vengeance. The priest says too much drinking leads to madness, or worse, possession. You'd argue, but your jaw barely works. By mid-morning, the church bells begin to toll. A slow, heavy rhythm. Everyone drags themselves there, still smelling of ale. The pews creak under the weight of regret and dehydration. The priest's sermon is a blur of thunderous words, gluttony, excess, wrath, but his voice shakes when he says, repent. Maybe because he was seen drinking last night. You close your eyes, the light filtering through stained glass, painting your eyelids in red and gold. It's beautiful, almost holy. Then the nausea hits again, and you remember holiness doesn't save you from hangovers. Outside, in the churchyard, a man crouches beside a barrel, muttering a prayer before he drinks. His face is pale, his eyes rimmed in red. He believes that hair of the dog drives away evil spirits, and in a sense, he's right. The second drink softens the headache, steadies the hands, numbs the guilt. Salvation in small doses. Because of course it is. You wander toward the edge of town, where a faint wind carries the stink of something worse, decay. A ditch overflows with slops and spoiled ale. Flies rise in shimmering clouds. Somewhere down that same path, a brewery's waste has leaked into the stream. Dead fish float belly up. Children still play near it. They always do. An old healer lives nearby, her hut cluttered with herbs and bones. She swears she can cure hangovers with boiled willow bark and vinegar. You drink it, gag, and feel nothing. She shrugs. God punishes the thirsty, she says, handing you a cup of weak ale to help it go down. You laugh, which hurts. Then you drink anyway. No one really knows where the line lies between medicine and indulgence. Ale is both tonic and toxin, blessing and curse. People drink for warmth, for courage, for the illusion of control. You can't blame them. The world here is cold, damp, and endlessly repetitive. Drunkenness is the only break in the pattern. By afternoon, the hangover fades, replaced by a soft, dull craving. The tavern doors creak open again. Someone sweeps out the rats, relights the hearth, fills the first mugs. Within hours, the same faces return, a little paler, a little quieter, pretending yesterday never happened. You sit among them, hands trembling slightly as you lift the mug. The first sip burns, the second soothes. By the third, you start to feel human again, or at least something close to it. Outside, the bells ring for vespers. The priest crosses himself before taking a swig from a hidden flask. Across the room, a woman hums softly while scrubbing a table. You recognize the tune. It's a hymn. You hum along. The air warms, the laughter rises, and for a few short hours, the sickness of the morning feels like it belonged to someone else. The night will end the same way. The next morning will hurt just as much. And still, no one will stop. Because the truth, whispered like confession, is this: sobriety hurts more than sin. You wake again, but something feels wrong this time. Not the usual headache, not the fog or the thirst, something quieter. The tavern is still dark, but the laughter is gone. The air feels too still. For the first time in years, maybe decades, no one is singing. You step outside and see why. The streets are empty, the barrels overturned. The smell of brewing, that constant yeasty perfume that clung to every corner of life, is gone. The aloes are silent, their kettles cold. The brewers have vanished behind locked doors. A decree has come down from the church. Drunkenness is the devil's milk. Of course, it wasn't the priest who started this. It was the plague. When the pestilence came, it spread faster than gossip, faster than drunken laughter. People began to wonder if it wasn't the ale, the communal cups, the sticky tables, the unwashed hands that carried death. Some towns banned taverns outright. Others burned them down for purification. You remember the smell of smoke and barley roasting together, sweet and bitter all at once. The tavern you once called home reduced to ash. For a time, everyone pretended to be sober. The priest preached abstinence. The magistrate swore off drink. But you could see it in their faces. The dryness drove them mad. They twitched, they sweated, they whispered prayers with trembling lips. By night, someone would sneak to the old brewery ruins, pour ale from a secret cask, and drink in silence, tears running down their cheeks. No one called it celebration anymore. It was survival. Weeks turned into months. You learned what it was like to live without the constant hum of tavern life, without the clinking of cups, the off-key songs, the warmth of shared foolishness. The world grew colder, lonelier. The nights stretched longer. When a child was born, there was no ale to toast his life. When someone died, no one raised a mug in his memory. Even weddings were dry and joyless affairs, all the dancing done to the rhythm of hollow feet. Then came the hypocrisy, always does. The nobles stocked their own private cellars, fat with imported wine and mead. They called it sacramental use. The peasants called it theft of joy. You saw men hanged for brewing in secret. Women drowned for selling ale by the cup. The same lawmen who condemned them drank quietly behind closed shutters. And yet, the thirst never left. It was too human, this need to dull the edge of life, to turn hunger into laughter, fear into song. The taverns may have fallen silent, but people still found ways. A hidden jug in the hayloft, a monk's herbal tonic, a cup of fermented honey under a saint's name. By the next generation, the laws softened. The taverns reopened. A little cleaner this time, a little quieter. There were rules about when to close and who could serve. But nothing could erase the memory of those first wild nights, when the world was drunk and unashamed, when laughter drowned out the sound of sermons. Now, as you sit in the corner of a rebuilt alehouse, you realize the cycle never ended. It only slowed. The mugs are smaller, the songs softer, but the ache behind them is the same. The ale still glows amber in the candlelight, catching the faces of strangers who look just like the ghosts you once knew. You raise your cup. The ale tastes different, thinner, less dangerous, but the warmth is still there, curling through your chest like forgiveness. Outside, the night presses against the window, black and endless. Somewhere a bell tolls for Compline. Somewhere a sinner prays. Somewhere another drunk swears he'll stop tomorrow. You sip again, and the sound of rain on the roof becomes applause. History sobers, then forgets, then drinks again. And so do you. Sleep now, the tavern's closing. Let the last candle die, the last song fade. Tomorrow will hurt, as it always does. But for now, your cup is full. Good night, traveler, and may your dreams ferment gently.